Let's decode this word worship, because Christians use it all the time, but rarely know what it actually means. Let's break it all the way down with logic, etymology, and critical thinking. 1. What does worship really mean? The word worship comes from Old English, worthship, meaning to give something honor, praise, or value as superior or more worthy than you. It literally means to bow your will, mind, and life to something you see as greater than yourself. So when Christians say, worship God, they're saying, lower yourself, exalt this being, obey. That's not love, that's submission. 2. Why would an all-knowing, all-powerful energy demand worship? Let's use logic. The sun doesn't ask for worship, it just shines. Water doesn't ask for praise, it just flows. Trees don't ask for songs, they just give life. Your ancestors didn't demand worship. They gave you blood, survival, and protection. But this God in the Bible constantly demands, worship me, bow before me, put no other gods before me. Or else, hell, that's not divine, that's insecurity, that's control. 3. Nothing in nature requires worship, only human-made gods. Let's break the spell. Animals don't worship. Plants don't worship. Stars, planets, and elements don't worship. The universe itself just is. It doesn't need praise to function. But suddenly, this invisible sky god with a beard needs constant songs, money, and obedience. Why does the creator of galaxies care if you sing to him on Sunday? Sounds more like a man-made king than a universal energy. 4. Worship is a program, not a path to power. What does worship really do? It teaches you to see yourself as lesser. It conditions you to serve without questioning. It programs your mind to submit to authority, even abusive ones. Now imagine this. You're told to worship a God you can't see, but ignore the ancestors whose DNA lives inside you. That's not spirituality. That's mental slavery. 5. Red flag. Why does God need worship, but the universe doesn't? If the Bible's God is the same energy that created the universe, why does he need worship when the universe just gives life freely? Why does he threaten you with hell if you don't obey? But the sun never punishes you for forgetting it. Here's the truth. The God of the Bible was created in man's image, with human ego, jealousy, and need for control. Worship was the leash. 6. Worship was designed for kings, not the creator. Let's go historical for a second. In ancient empires, the word worship wasn't spiritual. It was political. Subjects were told to worship the king, to show obedience, loyalty, and submission. Later, rulers merged religion and state, making God the king and demanding that same obedience. So when you're worshiping God, you're not tapping into divine power. You're participating in an ancient system of control dressed up as religion. 7th, worship is always one-sided. Let's look at the exchange. You pray, you sing, you give money, you obey, you fear hell, you wait for answers, you give thanks when life goes right, and blame yourself when it doesn't. But what does this God give in return? No voice, no physical presence, no direct communication, no action, unless you believe hard enough. That's not a relationship. That's a mental contract with an invisible boss. 8. If you need worship, you're not all-powerful. Let's flip it with raw logic. An all-knowing, all-powerful, omnipresent being would have no ego. It would exist in balance, not demand flattery. It would not need your songs, your fear, or your obedience. So why does the Bible's God say things like, I am a jealous God. Worship me or burn. Put no other gods before me. That's not divine. That's fragile. That's insecure. That's man-made. 9th, worship trains. you to accept oppression as divine. Think about this. You're told to worship someone even if your life is falling apart. You're told it's your fault if your prayers aren't answered. You're told to praise through the pain. You're told that suffering equals favor. Sound familiar? That's how slaves were taught to worship. It trained generations to see oppression as holiness. Worship became a tool to make people endure injustice quietly, while calling it faith. But 10. You don't need to worship what you are. Let's close this with soul truth. A tree doesn't worship the sun. It simply absorbs the light. The moon doesn't pray to the sky. It simply moves in harmony. The lion doesn't worship the land. It simply walks with power. So why are you, a child of earth, the descendant of gods, the product of ancestors who survived fire, famine, chains, and war, bowing to something you've never seen? Worship keeps you small. Your ancestors didn't worship. They communed with energy. They didn't bow. They aligned. They didn't fear a god. They walked with the Spirit. Final truth. Worship is not divine. It is a hierarchy, a mental spell, a spiritual leash. The sun doesn't want praise. The earth doesn't demand songs. Your ancestors never needed you on your knees. You don't worship what you come from. You walk in it because you are not a servant of God. You are the echo of God.